In fact, my next speaker is also from Liverpool. Really proud to introduce Chantelle Lunt, who is from Merseyside Black Lives Matter Alliance. Chantelle, over to yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm from Merseyside Black Lives Matter Alliance, and I'm also a former police officer. Just in terms of the progress of BLM, I know we've spoken a lot about the progress of BLM in the US, and I will be quite honest, I don't think we've achieved anything near the changes that we need to in the UK. And with new COVID regulations coming in, there's obviously that toss-up of we do not want to put a community who are 4 times more likely to die of COVID at any more risk, you know, by putting people on the streets and protesting. But that does not mean that we are going to stop or that the momentum has slowed down. In actual fact, it highlights even more why we need to keep momentum up, why we need to keep on pushing. And a massive part of that is uniting with anyone who stands against racism, who stands against oppression, and not getting caught up in internal arguments or fights, because at the moment, I will be really honest, the far right have got us. They seem to be unified, they seem to be doxing people, they seem to be really in line with each other, and they seem to have a manifesto of hate that they are using in quite an organised way against us. And we need to, there are more of us than them, and we need to organise and unite and say, well, no, this is not happening. So a massive part of that is challenging this culture that we've got, which someone who speaks out about racism is penalised and ostracised more than a racist themselves. Quite often we live in a society that protects racists and upholds them, and there is a bigger stigma attached with challenging racism than there is with being an actual racist, and it's very hard to call out racist, and we need to change that culture. A really big part of that is engaging our white allies and getting them to stand up and speak out about racism and say, because we've had a big enough movement that you cannot deny the racism in our society. The far right held a homecoming parade in London. You cannot deny that there is a threat to our society and our way of living. So we need to normalise challenging racism. And a big part of that is empowering our Black communities, because I've toured up and down the country with Black Lives Matter. I've spoken to a lot of people within Black communities, and there's just such a feeling of apathy and, you know, what can we do against this hate? Black people are the least likely to challenge police stop and searches. They're the least likely to speak out and complain when these things are done against them. You're more likely to have white middle class people complain about the conduct of the police than Black people, and we need to change that. We need to make Black people aware that no matter where they are, whether they are one of the 29 Black people in Sandbach out of 18,000, or whether they are in a strong Black community like Toxteth and Liverpool, that the Black community has you. We need to see each and every Black person, Black women, Black trans people. We need to see every Black person, and we need to let them know that we are with you and you have a community. And a beautiful part of that is we've got Zoom, we can connect online, we can let people know that they are not in this fight alone. But a big part of the fight is challenging police racism. It's a massive part of the fight. We discussed this in the police workshop earlier. The police are not held accountable. They account to nobody. Very little happens to a police officer, and they know that if they are racist. And I speak as a former police officer who challenged racism. They are not held accountable. Nothing happens to them, whether they kill someone in custody or not, and we need to change that. Stop and search. Black people are 9 times more likely to be stop and search. Yeah, 80% of stop and searches on Black people are unproductive. Nothing happens. Only 20% result in an arrest. Now, I think that the police should face a fine for every Black person they stop and search where the search was unsuccessful, because you are affecting a Black person's sense of self-identity, and a Black person is more likely to engage in a life of crime the more times they have interactions with the police, whether they are guilty or not guilty, because it's the mentality that you are a criminal that the police put inside you every time that they stop and search you. So we need to change the culture where it's okay to stop and search Black people, and we need to challenge the culture within policing that is putting more funds in high-level tactics like taser, like our ARBS department, which is the Armed Response Department, and it's defund and localised policing with that local knowledge of the Black community. We need to refund youth work, mental health services, social services and interventions, which mean that people don't end up taking the police route, because there are services there which will catch you and which are there to support you. Because when you take those services away, all you are left with is policing, and police are not always the best people for the job to be dealing with someone who's a child at risk, having a mental health crisis, or just needs help in another way, because they are quicker to arrest and they are quicker to put cuffs on you as a means to getting the job done, and that is not right. And a massive part of what we need to do is we need to invest in politics and empowering our Black people on a political platform, because Black people have been used so badly by politics. Look at Keir Starmer, look at Labour. Black people were promised the earth, and then the minute he got into power, BLM was just a moment. A time when he could have really stood strong with the Black community, he did the exact opposite. And we all know we've been used. Most of the Black community was voted for Jeremy Corbyn, but right now so many people have snapped up their Labour membership cards because we can see it, and nobody wants to stand for it anymore. So we need to really engage Black community. We need Black people who know how to navigate the political waters, and Black representatives within political parties. We've had a Black political party launched recently, and we need people to feel engaged in politics so we can challenge the systems as they stand. But I'll just finish on this. If we do not stand together, they will pick us off one by one. So the biggest thing that we need is unity, to see the bigger picture. There are a million things that we could argue about all day long, but the thing that unites us is a need to drive out hate and a need to bring more love, more unity and more acceptance into our communities. Thank you.